What if I told you that the world's most feared vampire was inspired by a real man, not a creature of darkness, but a prince who believed he was chosen to defend his people in humanity's darkest hour? Welcome to Eternal Philosophies. Today we uncover the truth behind Dracula, where myth and history collide, and how a man named Vlad Dracula became both a savior and a monster, the shadow that once protected the cross, the birth of a legend. Our story begins not in Transylvania's Gothic myths, but in 15th century Eastern Europe, a land trapped between rival empires, where kingdoms rose and fell like waves on a stormy sea. In the heart of that chaos was Wallachia, a small Christian principality fighting for survival. Its prince, Vlad III, was the son of Vlad Dracula, a knight of the Order of the Dragon, a brotherhood sworn to defend Europe from conquest and preserve its faith and independence. From that order came his name, Dracula, meaning son of the dragon. To the people of the time, the dragon was not a monster. It was a divine guardian, a symbol of strength in the face of overwhelming darkness. The shadow of the cross. Vlad's childhood was marked by tragedy. As a young boy, he and his brother were taken as political hostages by a rival empire, pawns in a world of shifting alliances. He saw betrayal, war, and cruelty, and learned that fear was often the only language power respected. When he finally returned home, Wallachia was fractured. Enemies surrounded his borders, and corruption had taken root within. To restore order, Vlad turned to ruthless methods, not out of pleasure, but out of a desperate belief that terror could bring peace. He ruled with an iron will. His infamous forest of impaled enemies was both a warning and a symbol, a message to anyone who threatened his land. Wallachia was not to be conquered. From hero to monster. But history has two faces. While some saw him as a protector, others saw only the blood he spilled. Foreign merchants and chroniclers spread chilling tales of his cruelty, stories that painted him as less than human. They called him the Impaler. Pamphlets soon appeared across Europe describing a man who drank blood, who dined among the dead, who had made a pact with the devil. Centuries later, an Irish writer named Bram Stoker would find these legends, and from them, create Count Dracula, the immortal vampire, a being cursed to feed on blood, a creature forever trapped between life and death. But the truth. The real Dracula fought not for immortality, but for faith, for order, for his people. He was not the monster of darkness. He was the one who stood against it, the warrior in the shadow. Vlad was far from a saint. He ruled through fear, and his methods were merciless. But in his mind, he was defending a sacred cause, the right of his land to exist, the freedom of his people to believe and live without submission. He wrote letters to neighboring rulers, signing them with the cross and declaring, "I have acted as was just before God." To his followers, he was a hero. To his enemies, a demon. To history, something in between. One night, vastly outnumbered, Vlad led his soldiers in a daring surprise attack against an invading army. Under the cover of darkness, he infiltrated the enemy camp wearing their armor, spreading chaos and confusion. By dawn, the invaders fled, believing they had faced a force beyond human, the fall and the curse. But the world quickly forgets its defenders. Allies turned on him. Rivals plotted his downfall. And eventually, the prince who terrified nations was betrayed and killed. His body was buried in secret, yet his name lived on. And in time, the shadow he cast grew darker than he ever could have imagined. The man who believed he was fighting evil became, in legend, the very image of it. But maybe that's what makes his story eternal, because it forces us to confront the question, can one fight darkness without becoming part of it? The legacy of the dragon. Vlad Dracula's story is one of faith, power, and paradox. He was both savior and sinner, hero and horror. His shadow still lingers in our imagination because it reminds us of something deeply human, that even the brightest causes can cast the darkest shadows. And, perhaps, that's the true meaning of Dracula. Not a tale of blood and fangs, but of conviction, sacrifice, and the thin line between protector and monster. In the end, maybe the real Dracula wasn't the vampire who thirsted for blood, but the man who bled for what he believed in. In your opinion, was Dracula a monster or a martyr of conviction? Share your thoughts in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to Eternal Philosophies to dive deeper into humanity's most timeless reflections.